Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad that you all are here. I'm so excited to talk to you about work-life balance is bullshit. Yep, I said it. We're going to get real about work-life balance and all the things. I am so excited that you're all here. So thank you for that. And thank you, Lindsay, for acknowledging me working through whatever that was, the technical difficulties that exist in the virtual space. So I appreciate that. I also love all of you for saying hello in the chat. Keep it coming. Please know you can share your comments, your questions, your experiences, your stories. I hope that you can be here with us. I'm hearing some people can't hear us. So can other folks tell me in the chat? Can you hear me? Anyone can tell me? Can you hear? I can hear you. Okay. So Peggy, I think maybe it's thank you, thank you, thank you. Woo, you guys are great. Okay, let's dig in. Good to see you all. So glad that you are here. Okay, as many of you know, we have so many friendly faces on here, so thank you for being here. In case you don't know who we are and what Learn at Work Live is all about, this is myself and my colleagues. We are the co-founders of the Alliance for Community and Justice Innovation, and we came together around implementation science. So we had been working on implementing different things in different spaces for many, many years and stumbled upon this body of research of implementation science, and it kind of blew our minds because we had been cycling through initiatives and implementation efforts without a whole lot of success. I know a lot of you have heard this story from me, so I won't bore you. In today's world, we, I think, are doing some really exciting things with many of you and are just so blessed to be helping organizations to infuse implementation science, the science of how you put things into practice into their work so that their best efforts can sustain and ideally get them the outcomes that they want. We spend a lot of time in the adaptive space. So, talking about things like organizational culture and leadership development and adaptive problem solving, all the people stuff. And so, that's a lot of what we do. Our Learn at Work Live series is meant to bring you new and interesting stuff as we learn about it, or different things that we're thinking about, talking about, or hearing about when in our work with clients across the country and the globe. And so I'm really excited for this session because I've been chasing this idea of work-life balance for like 2 decades and love some of the emerging research that really aligns well with the idea that work-life balance is kind of bullshit. And so I'm super excited to talk to you about that. I hope that you'll share your experiences with me, your stories, your questions, and I'm going to try to throw a bunch of stuff at you. Okay, so get ready. Let's dig in. Here's what we're going to cover today. In today's session, we're going to go over why work-life balance is a flawed concept, why it's actually, we should be talking about it and reconstructing this whole idea because it's at its very core flawed. We're going to try to do some things to help us focus our attention and think about how we'll never have more time in the day. There's only so much time to do what we want, but that really what we're trying to do is get good at understanding where our attention is going and how we can align our attention with the things that bring us flow, that bring us purpose and passion, so that we can fight against burnout, right? That's really what we're trying to do, is how alignment of our attention can help us to combat things like burnout and fatigue and cynicism and all of that. We're going to look at self care. We're going to talk about some of the interesting realities and emerging research coming out about self care. We're also going to share some self care stuff with you and talk about boundaries. Don't we all love talking about boundaries and how those kinds of things can help us? Okay, so this is our plan for today. This session's being recorded. So if you have to jump off or you miss anything or you want to revisit it, we're going to send it to you. So don't fret about that. Let's start with seeing where everybody is at. So I would like to ask you a poll. You should see this come up on your screen in just a moment. I'm curious, how would you describe your current level of burnout or fatigue? Where are you at? Are you like, I'm great, I'm energized, or like I'm handling, I'm okay, holding steady, I'm on the line. Maybe I'm starting to feel the weight of all the things, or I'm crispy. I am hitting a wall as I'm seeing. Okay. I want to know all the things. So if you see that pop up on your screen, you should be able to take the poll and answer. This is all anonymous, so it's confidential. Don't you worry about me sharing any of your stuff with anyone else. But I am going to show you the results, so you'll see the percentages of where people are at. We've got a lot of people right on the line, a very beautiful bell curve in the wrong space. So I'm going to end this poll and I'm going to share results with you. We got most of folks' responses here. About 4% saying, bring it on. I'm energized. I'm good. I'm connected to my passion and my why, and I'm doing it. 18%, I'm doing okay. Managing the workload just fine. 35% holding steady on the line, on the bubble, as we might say. Not thriving, but not fried. 34%, almost equal weight to I'm feeling the weight. I'm running on low battery. And we've got about 9% of folks saying, I'm crispy. I am feeling burnt out. It is here. It's knocking. And I got to do something about it. So, for those of you who are crispy, I'm so glad you're here. What I want you to know is that burnout, fatigue, cynicism, those kinds of things are not forever, right? They're not a personality trait that you can't shed. These are states, there are moments in time, and they are dynamic. There are things that you can do. And so I'm glad that we know where everybody's at, and let's dig into what we can do about it. Okay. So let's start with this idea that we really need to rethink this concept of work life balance and the idea that balance exists for any of us between our work life and our home life. I would argue that the idea, even the phrase of work-life balance is actually a setup, right? We're not capable of creating true balance all the time. We might feel it for a while. We might hit a place where everything feels like it's going well. But for most of us, we cycle through stages in our career and in our life where things feel really off the rails. And if we experience balance, it's often in moments or maybe even days or weeks if we're lucky, but chances are it's not over grand periods of time. I love that I'm hearing in there, thanks, Peggy, that, the binary, the idea that like there's a good and there's a bad and there's one way of doing it and it's got to be 50-50, very difficult stuff to do. So the idea behind work-life balance is that it suggests that there's this like ideal ratio of work and life. And maybe it's like 75-25 or 50-50 or some sort of thing that we are striving for. And if we can just work hard enough and try hard enough, maybe we'll get there. But for most of us, we're juggling a lot of different roles. We're wearing a lot of different hats. We've got expectations, deadlines, kids, aging parents, work stuff, even laundry. I'm going to talk a lot about laundry today. It's not balanced. For many of us in our day to day, we are surviving. Sometimes we are thriving, and we are trying to get through our checklists and our to do lists. So, balance gives this assumption of equal weight or like some sort of proper amount of weight where everything matters equally and we can figure out how to balance that out. It's really, really difficult to try to give equal time, effort, and energy to all the things. In fact, if you've been a part of any of my work in the past, you've probably heard me say that we're not equipped, we're not designed to do many things well. A lot of people suggest that we can kind of multitask really well, that we can do 100 things all at the same time. We tell ourselves that we are, but the science is pretty clear. We're not very good at multitasking. It doesn't work well for most of us. We tend to give diminished capacity to all of those things. And maybe we're still able to check the box on them, but it doesn't mean that we're giving it our all, that we're experiencing any sort of flow or passion around it. And so we're not doing ourselves any justice in that. So I want to tell you about something called the balance illusion. And the balance illusion, right, this flawed concept that we can have this work-life balance is really based on the myth of the hustle. And I am super guilty of this. So I'm sharing this with you because I resonate with it. And the myth of the hustle is that if you just hustle enough, you can have whatever. You can have balance, you can have flow all the time, you can have all of these things. You're right, we are not robots. We are totally human. But the myth here around the hustle is that the hustle, trying to do all the things, give all the things equal weight, be fully present everywhere, get it all done, that can lead to burnout. And so, one of the opportunities here is to rethink what our challenge is. For many of us, it's I don't have enough time. If I just had more time, I could get it all done. And I think part of the reframe is that time isn't your problem, right? That attention is your problem. You can't make more time, but you can decide what gets your focus. Time is finite, but our focus, our attention, where we put our energy and effort, that is something that is within our control and is ultimately infinite. So the idea is that as you can get better at where you put your focus and energy, you can almost create more time because you're creating more space for you to be in flow. You can do more of the things that you love while you're doing things that you have to do or that you've got to check off, those kinds of things. So balance implies like creating this place and then staying there forever, creating it as status quo. But life is really dynamic. And so we've got to be able to ebb and flow. There's always going to be things on our list that we don't want to do, both at work and at home. And so we want to think about ways that we can bring flow, bring our attention, bring opportunity into those spaces where we might not want to do the things that we have to do, but we can infuse it with the things that bring us all of that goodness that we want. So some seasons of our work or our home life demand more from us. So sometimes we might be 5% here and 90% there and 5% there, and then it switches all around. You might have issues going on with family or your health. Maybe you're grieving. Maybe you're in a moment of growth and you're focusing your attention there. It's not the balance part that matters. It's not giving up some of what you're working on or going through to put marbles in a different bucket. It's really about creating alignment around what matters to you most right now. What's bringing you the most flow? What's most connected to your why and your passion? And so I'm curious, you've been pretty active in the chat, so I want to hear from you. What's one thing that consistently pulls your attention away from what matters most? What do you notice when you think about, you're in the zone, you're doing the thing, what distracts you? I know for me, my phone can be a major distraction. I also, when I'm procrastinating, I love making to-do lists. If you could see my desk, there are to-do lists all over it. And so I will waste time making to-do lists instead of getting started on what I should be doing. Any sort of announcement of a new season of my favorite show is super distracting, and I go down a rabbit hole of binging that. And then again, I'm going to bring up laundry. I find that when I am procrastinating, laundry or like if I see it or I know that it's there, like I almost can't focus on anything until I get my laundry done, which is bizarro. I'm seeing a lot of phones. I'm seeing other people, right? Like people coming in. I love the comments about emails. Absolutely, right? We can lose ourselves in our email inboxes forever. There's no shortage of emails that needed to be read or responded to. And so it can be a nice way of distracting ourselves and losing time instead of kind of focusing on what matters most. Social media, so much to do, absolutely. Unexpected things, yep, can't plan for everything, right? No way to do that. I love that. Culture. Thank you for mentioning that, Tracy. What a great insight there that sometimes we can get pulled in to kind of the adaptive people stuff that's going on, whether I think some people call that drama. It's not necessarily tied to culture, but it can be depending on the environment that you're in, keeping in mind that culture exists in our homes, in our family dynamics, in our friend dynamics, just like it does at work. And so getting stuck in that swirl can also be really tricky. Putting out fires. We got some firefighters in the room. Yep, absolutely. So all of these things happen to all of us. And we all have these distractions, the crises, the unexpected phone calls, someone walking in the door when we're trying to focus, all sorts of things going on all the time. And then the things that we do to ourselves, right? The things that we do to ourselves to pull ourselves out. Maybe we look over at our phone and notice that we have a notification, or we just quickly glance at our email and we realize we have 100 emails that need to be done. And so we get lost there. So whether it's from external um, stimuli or internally, we are constantly distracted by things that get in the way of our ability to accomplish the things that matter most, which can ultimately lead to some burnout. So aligning what you have to do with what you want to do is something that I want you to take away from today. So, when we are misaligned, it can be really exhausting. You might not consciously feel it in the moment, but over time, a misalignment in what we're doing in our day to day with our values, in how we're showing up with how we want to show up, in what we're focused and working on with what we would like to be focused and working on, those misalignments over time can really be taxing on our emotional savings account of sorts, like our ability to give and receive that we have internally. Some people like to call it like their bucket. Is your bucket full? Those misalignments drain your bucket. And so when your days are full of things that you have to do, and none of them or a few of them are connected to like what you want to do, it can really drain your energy fast. Even if you're technically doing it all right and you're checking it off at the end of the day, it can be very taxing when it's not aligned. And I want to, I was reminded yesterday, a dear friend and colleague of mine, Seth Krause, reminded me that even switching the language from have to or want to get to can be a game changer. Language is very powerful. Even the language that we are speaking to ourselves with can be really powerful in how we show up. And so being able to shift our mindset and shift our language to what do I get to do today? And how can I align it most with the things that are most important to me? Every conversation, every meeting, every email, every interaction is an opportunity to infuse with the things that bring you passion, that are connected to your why, and so thinking about how to better align those things can go a long way because energy comes from purpose, not productivity. And we get that wrong a lot. I am guilty of this. We have a lot of high achievers in this room. I know who you are. I'm seeing all your names. And so we tend to equate our energy and how we're feeling with how productive we are. And the reality is that it's really more about how connected we are to our purpose and how able we are to align our activities with that purpose in our day to day. So, getting 40 things done in a day doesn't actually matter if none of them are moving your life, your work, your family, the things that are important to you in a meaningful direction. So, productivity without purpose equals burnout. So again, it's really not about finding a work-life balance. It's about thinking about how to be productive with purpose so that you don't slowly slip into a place of fatigue, exhaustion, cynicism, burnout. How do you do this work? Well, some of you might roll your eyes at me, but or maybe you're already thinking it if you want to put it in the chat. But it really starts with understanding values. What matters to you? Values aren't just about morality. They're things that bring you energy, satisfaction, meaning. They're fulfilling, they're life giving. And so when you understand what your values are, then you can start thinking about to-do lists and all the things that you got to get done and how to connect those with your values. I think the other thing here is that competence can feed confidence. So doing work that reflects your values when you're clear about what those are and infusing those values into your work and your day-to-day and getting good at it, like building that skill. Oftentimes we say a lot about what we want. I want to be this kind of person. I want people to feel this way about me. I want to be this kind of leader. But then the crises happen. We become a firefighter. We get distracted and all these things, and we don't necessarily show up in alignment with what we say we want and what's important to us. If we can get better, more competent at bridging the gap between what we want for ourselves and how we show up and what's meaningful to us with what's actually happening in our day to day, for all of you implementation science nerds, right? This is implementation science on yourself. When you can do that, it creates a really great feedback loop of purpose and motivation, and it helps us to build mastery over time around being the person that we want to be in our day to day. No matter what we are working on, we are infusing our values into every single thing that we do because it becomes just a part of who we are and how we show up, what we talk about, how we interact with people, etc. When we're able to do that, even our must do, our have to, our least favorite tasks create opportunities for alignment. We can reframe all of those responsibilities through the lens of our values and say, I'm going to show up to this meeting because I value connection and I'm going to use it as an opportunity to blah, blah, blah. I get to have this tough conversation and interaction. And in that, I want to make sure that I embody this value of mine that's really important, or I want to stress the importance of this vision and purpose that I'm striving for. So all of these become an opportunity to align what we all have have tos, right? With what we want to, which is our values, so that we can get to so that we can get to do our have tos from a place of want and purpose and value driven work. I love this. I love all the chats that are happening. And then someone mentioned pizza and I got distracted. Thank you for mentioning pizza. I love it. Okay, so the story here is that attention is your real superpower, right? That our what we put our attention into, where we put our focus, grows. So if you put your focus on being a firefighter and you gear up every day ready to drink from a fire hose and put out some fires, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to experience. And you're going to end the day being exhausted. And like, I didn't even get any of the stuff that I wanted to do done. If we can start focusing our attention and bringing those values into our day to day and bridging the gap between what we say we want for ourselves and others and what we're actually spending our focus on during the day, then we start to create some of that superpower magic that can happen. So remember, attention is currency. It's like your value, worth, and dollars that you have. What you put your attention on really matters. It says a lot about who you are, what you're all about, what's important to you. And you have to know that everyone wants a piece of your attention, right? And so people are going to be fighting for your attention over time. And it's not just other people like coworkers or family or friends, it's your phone, it's apps, it's all the notifications that you get. People often ask me like, how come you didn't know that this happened or that happened? It's because I don't have any notifications turned on my phone because it's too distracting, right? All these things pull for our attention. And we want to be really careful about guarding our attention and making sure that we're putting it on the things that matter the most, that we're protecting it like a finite resource, like it's the last piece of food that we have for the rest of our lives. We've got to protect it and make sure that we're holding on to it and using it where it matters most. I believe time management is overrated, that really the true skill of today's time is attention management, like being able to focus your attention on the things that matter and to infuse your values into that. That is a skill, and it takes so much practice. It is hard to do. Two people can spend an hour very differently, right? One is distracted and doom scrolling or stuck in their email or responding to 15 things that don't need responses to, while the other is focused and engaged and infusing what matters most into whatever it is that they're doing. So it's not about how long you spend, it's more about how deeply you go into the work that you're doing. Again, I know I've said multitasking is a myth. The science is clear. If you don't believe me, you can dig in, I can send you stuff. Multitasking, we are not good at it. Our brain switches between tasks really rapidly, and we don't do two things very well. So when we're multitasking, let's say we're doing 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 things, our brain's working really, really fast. We're missing things, we're skipping steps, we're checking boxes and moving on. And to all my firefighters out there, what that means for you is chances are you're putting out the same fire over and over and over again, day after day, week after week, because it never actually got solved because we're doing so many things at the same time. And so, some strategies for reclaiming your attention. My favorite strategy, and I know this is going to be annoying for some of you, it was annoying for me, and it took me a long time to actually try it. But they call them focus sprints. So essentially, you set a timer for X amount of minutes, whatever it is. I had to start small. I did 8 minutes when I started. And you're only allowed to focus on one thing for those 8 minutes, whatever it is. And it doesn't matter if you actually work on it. There was a time where I would spend 8 minutes essentially staring at the thing that I didn't want to do and wasting 8 minutes. But the idea is that over time, as you train your brain to focus on one thing for a chunk of time, not only can you extend the timer, but you get a lot more done than you think you can in a short period of time. I can't tell you how profound focus sprints have been for me, where I can clear my to-do list pretty quickly by forcing myself to spend 15 minutes solely focused on one thing that I've probably been putting off for a really long time. And some projects, 15 minutes isn't enough. What I've found is on those instances, when the timer goes off, I'm in it. I'm already in the flow. I'm doing my thing and I don't want to stop. And so I keep working on it. And so uh, I'm sorry. If you haven't seen the comment from Rob in the chat, that is so perfect. And I love it. I tell myself that all the time. He says, I'm great at multitasking. It allows me to screw up more than one thing at a time. Love it. We're all doing the best that we can. But if you can create, yes, the Pomodoro technique, absolutely, Josie, good to see you. That is a real strategy that you can build up over time, and it can really help you to get chunks done. The idea is when you're in the beginning stages of it, when your timer goes off, you're done. You put that away and you move on to something else. That's kind of the thing. And eventually you build up more time and you realize that you just get into flow and you get stuff done. It's been really fantastic. The other thing that you can do is digital hygiene. So turn your phone off, turn your notifications off, put things on do not disturb. Give yourself and your brain some space away from technology. See if you can't disconnect, even if it's for 15 minutes, so that you can go for a walk or just sit or do nothing or do something. See if you can disconnect from that. It can be a really powerful thing. And then if you can create some rituals around your transitions, so especially from like work to home, home to work, those kinds of things, so that you're not bringing all that stuff back with you and you can create some shifts. It doesn't mean that you just shut it off and it's not an issue. You probably want to go home and talk about your day or start thinking about work on your drive. That's fine. But if you can create some rituals around how to shift, you're training your brain in how to de-emphasize certain parts of your day so that you can focus your attention more meaningfully and more fully in the areas that matter. So I would love for you to embrace a question as you move forward, which is ask yourself in different moments throughout the day, is this the best use of my attention right now? And know that many times we put our focus and attention in places where we feel competence doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best use of our time. There are probably many of us, myself included, who are spending time doing things because it's easy, it's brainless, we know how to do it, we don't have to think about it. when that task might be better suited for someone else because we need to be doing this other stuff that's probably harder and more challenging for us where we need to build some skill. So, this question alone, is this the best use of my attention right now, can really help to reframe your day and give you some opportunity to rethink how you're spending your attention and focus. So, I'm curious, where does your attention actually go during the day? Is there something you'd like to change about that? If you want, you can self reflect, you can put it in the chat. But when you are kind of distracted, where are you putting your attention and focus? Is it where you are most effective, most able to help? Are you using your attention most effectively? And so would love to hear your thoughts about that. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about how this relates to self-care. I want to talk about the difference between numbing out and restoring because there's a lot of research emerging here that some of the things that we do for self-care is actually harmful to us. And many of you mentioned it in like, what are you doing with like doom scrolling and that kind of stuff, right? Those are things that we do to numb out, where self-care is meant to restore. So I want to kind of talk through the difference between these things. We all need opportunities to unplug. Like that's necessary. We're kind of like a computer system that needs to do the updates and then shut down and restart in order for them to fully get into our bodies. So we need good sleep, we need exercise, we need good food, and we need time. Our brains are so amazing, especially when they're bored. And our brains aren't bored anymore. You know, we have to force our brains to be bored because there's so much going on. So we need the opportunity to unplug, but not all unplugging is equal. There's a difference between doing something to feel better and doing something to stop feeling altogether or to procrastinate or to kick the can. So this is really the line between restoring and numbing out. Numbing out is about escape, whereas restoring is about renewal. And so I want you to really think about that. The things that you're doing when your attention disappears and you lose an hour of time, are you doing things that are truly renewing you? Or are you doing things that are about escaping? So numbing out is like avoiding, distracting, disconnecting, whereas restoring is like engaging in something that really refuels you mentally, emotionally, physically. Both can involve the same activity. What matters is the intention and the impact. So binging a show for 3 hours can be numbing one day and maybe restorative the next. So you really want to ask yourself in the moment when you're about to like let your attention get lost somewhere, am I avoiding something? Or am I choosing something that's going to help me come back to myself? Am I doing something in this moment that's truly restorative? Or is what I'm doing right now in this moment numbing out? When we think about numbing out and restoring, one makes you feel less, one helps you feel more, right? One makes you feel less like yourself, one makes you feel more like yourself. So numbing out often leads to that disconnection, irritability. Sometimes we feel regret or shame that we wasted an hour doing whatever, for me, like buying shoes or whatever that might be. Whereas restoring often leaves you feeling clearer, calmer, maybe even more energized or reconnected somehow, right? It gives you a boost. And so paying attention to how we feel after we do things can tell you a lot about whether or not this is an activity that's numbing or restoring. If it's draining, it's numbing. If it makes you feel like you've got more, it's probably restorative. Numbing tends to be passive, restoring is often intentional. So numbing is like being on autopilot. I just don't want to think. I don't want to have to make a decision anymore. I'm just like checked out, but my eyeballs are open staring at the TV. Maybe it's mindless eating or drinking or, watching a show. Whereas restoring is intentional. It requires pausing and making a choice, even if it's simple or quiet. So we don't need to be on a wellness retreat or at a spa. We can take deep breaths on purpose, right? With intention. We can go for a walk or listen to a song that's intentionally meant to get our juices flowing. We can journal or call a friend or take a few moments of silence. These are active, intentional ways of restoring that can help bring us back, right? And we don't often need very long. We don't need hours and hours and hours often, unless we let ourselves get all the way burnt out, right? Then we've got to do some big stuff. But if we're on the bubble, we're really doing these small things regularly, often and always, and being intentional about choosing things that are restorative and avoiding the things that are numbing, because that just leads to burnout in and of itself. So I want you to know we all numb. There's no shame in this game. Okay. We all do it. It's about getting better at doing it less so that we can do restorative stuff more. We're human, as people have mentioned in the chat. Sometimes our brain just needs a break. Sometimes numbing is what we need in the moment. This is really about thinking about your self-care patterns. And if you are feeling on the bubble or feeling closer to burnout and fatigue, is it possible that you're doing more numbing than restoring? And how can you get back to a restorative place? So let me ask you one more poll, because I'm super curious. This one is, when you're stressed out, right? What's your default self-care strategy that's probably more about numbing than restoring? So what comes to mind for you? Oh, I love the sewing and the baking. So good. I love it. Thank you for all your answers. Again, anonymous. Quiet Kate time. Love it. I love that you even named it. So good. Okay. We still have some answers streaming in. I love that people are putting stuff into chat. Thank you for sharing. There's a mix, I think, in what I'm seeing between like things that are restorative. Some people are writing things that are restorative and some people are writing things that are not restorative. Let's look at this poll and see. When we're stressed, what's our default strategy? We've got some streamers, some social media-ers, some overeaters, holy smokes, that's me. Some overworkers, holy smokes, that's me. Some exercisers. And then I'm assuming that none of these folks are throwing it into chat. And I love all of these ideas. Taking a nap, yard work, playing an instrument, doing a hobby, making a list. Thanks, Julie. I do that too, although it's usually in an attempt to avoid having to do anything. Ah, that's awesome. So the point here is that, and the science that's emerging right now is pretty darn clear, that many of us use self-care as an umbrella to numb out. And that if we want to truly avoid burnout and be able to stay in that flow state, which isn't about work-life balance, it's really about aligning our values and our wants with our have-tos so that we can get to. If that's what we're striving for, we really want to take a fresh look at those things that we're doing as self-care and make sure that they are truly restorative. So again, numbing versus restoring. Numbing is escaping. You feel less like yourself. It's more passive. Restoring is about renewal, feeling more like yourself and being really intentional. So let's rethink that self-care, right? As we're building some self-awareness here, it's important to remember not all self-care is helpful. Chances are we all have things that we could do differently. And so what can we avoid so that we're not numbing as much and we're doing more restorative things? Real self-care restores you as an individual more to yourself. It gives energy, clarity, presence. So think about things that move your body, things that help you reset, like sleep, good food, connection, laughter, creativity, nature. All of those kinds of things tend to be restorative. You can ask yourself in the moment, is what I'm doing right now helping me feel more like myself or less? And sometimes it's about creating some boundaries for yourself, right? So like turning off your phone, turning off notifications. Sometimes I leave my phone in the car so that I'm not even near there. But another thing you can do is design your own wellness toolkit ahead of time. Like when you're not stressed and when you're not at work and when you're not in the moment, thinking through and being very clear, how do I know when social media is numbing versus restoring? How do I know when binging TV shows is numbing versus restoring? And like working on that ahead of time as a part of your wellness toolkit in advance can help you so that in the moment, if you're numbing, at least you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I need to reset. So, is there one restorative form of self-care that you wanna do more often? I know some of you have already put it in there, baking and archery and sweeping, yard work, those kinds of things, going to the gym, yoga, I love it, more reading. So fantastic, right? Thinking about the most restorative thing you can think of, the thing that you know brings you energy and light and innovation and creativity, and trying to build that in more intentionally to into your life so that you're doing it as often as possible. So good. Love it. Keep it coming. Okay. So, over the last year or so, we've been working hard to develop what we call the Learn at Work Live Suite. So, we've got these webinars, and then we have some micro tools that are short videos with different clips. So, it's a library of about 40 short 10 to 15-minute episodes that do things like self care or help you work with clients better and have introduce new tools or lead your team better. So, there's different spaces that you can get into. And our vision is for agencies to integrate that kind of stuff into what they're doing so that people have not just one way of restoring, come to the barbecue that we're having, but that they have a myriad of opportunities. You never know what's going to land for people. People need to hear things in a lot of different ways. And so it's a way of really connecting information and micro tools to people so that they can make it a part of their self-care and professional development routine. Um, and so you can think of the self-care series as like a preloaded wellness toolkit. Now, last week we emailed some of you a Learn at Work episode 1010-1. Thank you so much to those of you who emailed me and talked about how it impacted you and what you're doing with it. Those emails mean the world to me. So please keep them coming. If you didn't get the link or you didn't have a chance to watch it, no big deal. We're going to show you a piece of that video now, and then take a minute to reflect. So one of the things to know is that each one of these tools is steeped in science. It's a multidisciplinary approach to use things like psychology, behavioral science, even brain science, because you know I'm a nerd about that, into a tool that can be used to help you in the moment, either work with clients, work with your team, or work on your own self-care. So let's see if we can see, this is kind of the sciencey part of the 10-10-1. Because the science is so strong, we wanted to share with you a tool that combines actionable hope with the science of manifestation and the power of visualization. 10-10-1 is an easy 3-step process that can help you visualize your future in practical and tangible ways and set up goals to help you get one step closer to making it happen in a reality. We first learned about this tool from Rachel Hollis, who uses it as a way to help people create their ideal in real time. But it's important to note that this tool has existed in many different forms for many different years and is quite powerful. Okay, so that is just a little taste of kind of the synopsis of the science. So this 10-10-1 tool really is a combination of positive psychology, some of that hope research, the power of visualization as a manifestation tool, which lives in a lot of different spaces, and neuroscience, which is super cool and always amazing. Um, and then you can see here that this is kind of a quick overview. So if you didn't have a chance to watch the video, we still want you to understand the gist of 10-10-1 so that you can try it out if you want to. I've been using it for years and it's been one of the more powerful tools that I've come across. I love it. So here it is. The key here is to visualize your 10-year ideal state every day and write down all 10 of those dreams as if they've already happened. Then it's time for your goal. What's one thing that you can do in the next day, ideally, or the next week to move closer to your 10-year vision? If a dream is to complete a certification, can you sign up for it today? If you don't have the funds to pay for that certification quite yet, could you skip your latte and put that money in a savings jar? If your ideal state involves a promotion, could you ask someone in your leadership to give you some feedback on your strengths and opportunities for growth? The opportunities are endless. And 10-10-1 is a process, not an event. It takes time to create a clear vision in your mind of what you want your life to look like 10 years from now. Don't rush this step. Spend some time every evening before you go to bed, or perhaps as soon as you wake up, picturing details in your mind. Okay, just a really quick example of this tool. If you want to talk more about the tool, let me know. We can connect about it. But really, it is about visualizing your life in grand detail 10 years from now. Then thinking of the 10 things that need to happen. They call these the 10 dreams in order to make your vision a reality. And you want to write those down as if they've already happened. So I have $50,000 in the bank, or I've paid off my student loans, whatever it might be, as if it's already happened. And then you think about the one thing you can do today to take a step forward. And you'd be surprised how quickly you can move those visions into reality if you are focused on it, visualizing it, and really being thoughtful about how to make those moves. So, this is about, I don't know, that was maybe 90 seconds of a 12-minute video that introduces the tool in full along with the science and then gives some examples of how to do it. And so, one thing I would love for all of you to do is to just take that first 10 piece and start creating a clear vision for yourself. Create a clear vision of the future because that would make it easier for you to align. Remember, the power of work life balance, which isn't a thing, is really aligning your attention with your values and your vision for your future. And so I don't know about you, but I always feel more organized and more on top of things when I have a plan. A vision is just part of that. And this one is very visual. So you want it in your brain. You want to think, who am I with? What am I wearing? What am I eating? What am I doing? And have a very clear picture of where you want to be 10 years from now. And then start doing that alignment work. How can I align how I'm spending my days? How can I align what I'm talking about, what I'm thinking about, what I'm working on with this thing that I want for myself and my future? And then, of course, it wouldn't be fair if we didn't talk just a little bit about boundaries. We could talk all day about boundaries. But I want you to know that saying yes to something is saying no to something else. And so the same is true in the reverse. Saying no to something allows you to be able to say yes to something. And so we've got to be able to think about how to say no, or even to ourselves in the moment, say no about what we're going to volunteer for, how broadly we're going to go, how deep we're going to go into things so that we can keep our focus and attention aligned around the things that are bringing most value. So, saying no is a true leadership skill. It's not selfish, it's self respect. And every yes you give is a no to something else. So, as you say yes and sign up to all the multitasking or solving every problem or putting out every fire, you are saying no to the things that are likely going to keep you out of burnout and keep you connected to your passion. Clear boundaries aren't about rejection, they're really protection. And most of us say yes because we feel guilty or we want people to like us. And the truth is that most of us have a lot of respect for people who have clear boundaries that are aligned with their values. When I understand what your boundaries are and what your values are, then it makes it really easy for me to say, okay, I see why you're saying no. Um, and I think at least something that's helped me, because this is still really hard, is having my script ready. So I already know the holes that I tend to fall in when it comes to overcommitting, doing things that I say yes to in the moment that later make me feel resentful or other types of feelings. And so I like to have a few things in my back pocket. I want to see the train coming so that I know when it's going to happen and then have my words ready. So I practice saying things like, I'm not available for that right now, or let me check and get back to you, or that's not aligned with my current priorities. My favorite one of those is let me check and get back to you, because you'd be surprised how often people forget, or it doesn't end up being important, or things change 50 times and you would have spent all this time, effort, and energy working on this thing. And now that's not even what needs to happen. It's something completely different. And so I love the let me check, or just taking a pause before we jump right in. I hope that you can think of something that you want to say no to more often. If you want to share it in the chat, you can. But I'd love for you to think about where you can create some space to let your brain be bored, to do more of what aligns your passion and your purpose, or to just do the things that are most important. Um, I love this. So great. Yep. Cancel all the meetings, Mary Lee. We have far too many meetings. That science is clear too. So the end here is you don't need balance. You should be considering alignment over balance. Balance is about trying to make everything same, equality. Alignment is about clarity, getting really clear about what deserves your best attention. You can be perfectly balanced and absolutely miserable if nothing connects with what matters most to you. So aligning around what matters most is a really great thing to do. Keep in mind that balance is pretty rigid, right? 50-50, everything in equal buckets. And life doesn't work that way. Sometimes your family's going to need more, your work's going to need more, whatever. Balance can make you feel like you're failing all the time, but alignment allows you to adapt with intention. It allows you to step outside of reacting in guilt or being in that space, gives you permission to drop some balls because they're not all that important or not connected to what matters or might change 50 times between now and tomorrow. Alignment asks, what choices am I making that are matched with my values? And so misalignment is when we're doing all sorts of things all over the place and it's mismatched and not clear. We want to spend our time and energy on what's most important, and what's going to bring the most impact if we can. And remember that alignment can feel like clarity in chaos, which is so important right now because it feels like we're always in chaos. You're still going to have hard days. You're still going to get tired. You're still going to feel fatigued or lost. But when you are aligned, you know why you're doing what you're doing. And that why becomes the anchor. So even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when you feel stretched, your why is strong enough to help you stay aligned to those things. I love this. So I hope this was helpful. I love all the things that are coming up in the chat. If you have questions, now would be the time to throw them in the chat because we are wrapping up quickly. I want to tell you though, another opportunity for you is on June 27th. Our next Learn at Work Live is coming up. We're going to talk about Ayurveda for real life. I don't know if you've heard about this, but I think it's really exciting. So Katie Weber is a seasoned practitioner of the practice of Ayurveda, which is ancient and intuitive, holistic. And it's really about health that nurtures the body, mind, and spirit, which I find really fascinating. Katie's a former parole officer, and she's going to be sharing how Ayurveda helped her find vitality and alignment while working in this criminal legal system and space, and how people like you, professionals in the field, working hard, doing all the things, feeling stretched, can really discover and cultivate true wellness across all of those spheres. And thank you, Sarah, for putting the registration link in the chat. If you're interested in learning more about our static Learn at Work videos, which I showed you a little clip, some of you saw the whole thing, please type more in the chat and Sarah from our team will reach out to you with all the details. Like I mentioned, the Learn at Work suite is an opportunity to kind of beef up your internal library in the workplace and give people a consistent outlet for in-house trainings, but really around micro tools, right? These short, sweet tools that could be helpful in the moment for working with clients, leading your teams, or just taking care of yourself. It's really a chance for you to refresh in 15 minutes or less. Yep, thanks for all the mores. That's awesome. You can also learn more about it on our website as well. If you haven't been to our Implementation Leadership Academy or the 102, we still have a few spots open for our summer classes, and you can find all of those details on the website. And then again, here's my contact information. I want to hear your stories about work-life balance or alignment or self-care. If you had a chance to watch the 10-10-1 video, let me know. If you want to learn more about these things, put more in the chat and we will reach out to you and tell you more about all the things. But ultimately, I hope that you'll stay in touch and let me know how you're doing in creating more alignment over balance in your life. Thanks, everyone. So great to see you. See you next time.